Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This video is for the fact that I would like to tell you my experience at the SSB, that is Service Selection Board interview. I went for this interview in 2020, just after the ending of the first wave of COVID. So, in this video, my basic aim is to tell you my experience, the process details of how this interview goes. It's a 5 days process, and specifically the fact that how this process has altered a bit because of COVID, the coming of COVID. So, firstly, my name is Gantavya, and I thank you all for watching this. So, let's proceed. Firstly, we all know, as I mentioned, that it's a 5 days process, and I went for the A4 entry first of all in 2020, in which I went to Dehradun at that time. So, it's a 5 days process, and in the day one, if you talk about how this exam or this assessment goes like, it is basically a personality assessment, and the first day comprises of two tasks mainly. The day one comprises of two tasks mainly. First is the OIR, that is the Officer Intelligence Rating Test. Second is the PPDT, which is Picture Perception and Discussion Test. OIR, you know the basic idea. Might you will get to know from various videos on the YouTube. So that's basic thing. You can get to know about this exam, what they ask for, and what happens in PPDT. They tell you, they show you a picture, then you have to write a story in 4 minutes, and so on. The GD goes. Then you get screened in, and then there are mainly three things which go in the remaining portion, which is a psychological test, then group tasks, and then the interview, personal interview. And then the last day is a conference. After that, they tell you the recommended candidates. But now I'll explain you in detail uh, what was my experience after COVID when this SB took place. So you will get to know how some things got some changes that they did. So I reached on the selection center at 6 a.m. All the particulars, the formalities were completed. Then they start with the OIR test. Followed by that, it was the PPDT, and around in the afternoon, they told us that these are the screened candidates, and then we went inside. Then we all know about the PIQ, which is the Personal Information Questionnaire, which is to be filled very carefully. They ask you about your particulars, your personal information, your hobbies, etc. So it is always said that you need to fill that form very carefully. It is read by almost all assessors, whether it is a GTO or the interviewer, the psychologist. So it is to be filled very carefully. Then the changes which came. One of the main changes that we encountered, that due to COVID, we had to continuously wear our masks and face shield at every moment, whether it was any task, any outdoor field task, if it was a psychological test, the day one, if we have to come out from our dormitory, we have to wear our masks and face shield compulsorily. Our body temperature and all basic things, medical health was checked 3 times a day. We were not given food in their own, mess. We were given plates, that's a crockery, and some games to be played inside dormitory only. We were not allowed to go outside the center or even just roam around a bit so easily. So we were given our crockery, and we need to clean. We have to clean themselves after each meal, whether it's a breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So these were one of the basic changes that they did because of COVID. Secondly, when the day two, it was a psychological test, and we all know that it comprises of four parts: the thematic apperception test, followed by that the word association test, then the situation test, and lastly the self description test. So this goes for about 3 hours. So that I guess this was almost the same as it happens always, but the only difference was we were wearing our masks and face shield. Then day three, it was a GTO, group tasks, and the how much I know, they did some changes. The first thing that they did there, that the whole group task activity was completed within 7 to 8 hours only. It didn't go the other day. So the whole GTO process, that is basically, in normal scenario, there are 9 tasks in GTO, and at that day, most of the tasks which the GTOs did, which they were assessing us on the basis of that. So it completed in the 7 to 8 hours in day one only, in one day only. And in those tasks, some alterations were there, obviously, like the basic thing which happen every time, that we had our GDs, two GDs were there. We had a group planning exercise. Followed by it, we have our progressive group tasks, then half group tasks. We had our lecturates and the final group task. So that was the normal scenario. But if I talk about the individual obstacles, they were cancelled because of COVID. I don't know the reason exactly, but it was the because of the higher authorities. They only recommended. And if, as far as the A4 entry is concerned, and as far as I know, the group obstacle race doesn't take place in case of Air Force entries. It takes place in Navy and Army entries. So it was not there. And then followed by on the day 4, I had a personal interview. The main difference that there was one assessor. I was sitting around at 3 to 4 feet distance. I had my face shield, and he was with his mask. And on day 5, we had our conference in which it was a normal scenario. I was wearing my face shield and masks, and everyone else was on they were normal. They were not wearing any mask at that point of time, all the officers. And then the results came. Unfortunately, I was conferenced out, but I was happy about the fact that I got that kind of experience. So this was the changes which came because of COVID in the SSB. But to all the defense aspirants, or many candidates who want to know about how the SSB takes place and they want to pursue the career in defense, some basic information I would like to tell you. If you like to watch the video further, in the OIR, there are two types of, I would bifurcate in two types depending upon the selection centers. Like in the first kind of OIR, you have two papers. Each paper can have 40 questions, and you will be given 17 minutes each to solve them. In the other one, in some other center, it can be 50 questions each with 30 minutes each they give. This was a OIR, and the syllabus is basically they ask about military aptitude, basic aptitude, logical based questions. So there are a lot of books available in the market, so you can practice it on your own. And I don't think there's any need of specific coaching. Followed by it is a PPDT, picture perception discussion test. There's a picture shown. The picture may be a bit blurred. It is intentionally. Then you have to write a story on it, but specifically you have to mention some particulars. You have to mention how many persons you perceive in the picture, their moods, their age range, and after that you have to mention the action or the theme of the story, and then you have to write the story. And then, as far as I know about what I have been taught and learned, yeah, in your story there should be three aspects. You have to present the past, present, and future, and the story should be comprehensive and simple. And in the psychological test, more or less the same thing, but you can't fake about anything in the psychological test. You have to be. It is recommended that you should be true and honest, because one or the same thing any of the testers would get to know if you try to fake. So you need to practice before. If there are any weak points in you, you need to practice before going to the SSB. In the GTOs, as well as I remember, if I talk about the lecturate part, there were they give us slit, and there are 4 topics written on it, and you have to choose one, and you have to speak on it for about 3 minutes. So as far as I remember, the topic which I spoke on some Supreme Court judgment, as far as I remember. And in the GDs, there were two GDs. One, I guess, it was based on a current issue, current affairs related issue, and the second was on a social issue, as far as I remember. In the group task, that I guess I have introspected myself, and I believe that it was my weak part, due to which I was not able to get a recommend. Basically, like, the lot of rules which you have to follow in the group tasks. You have got your load, your helping materials, and you have to complete an obstacle and then proceed further. The assessor generally assesses your logical ability, your how you can problem solving skills, your cooperation, your leadership skills, and lot other officer like qualities. And one thing I forgot to mention, that in the GTO, one of the most important tasks, that is the command tasks. It was also there in the Air Force. It is always there, and I feel that in that task also I lagged a bit. I was not able to give a comprehensive and logical solution to the assessor. Then about the personal interview, it was mainly on the basis of the PIQ, the personal information questionnaire, which I submitted, and on that, my questions were more for related to my personality and not on other issues. Like for example, many times they ask about your technical questions related to your degree, and they also ask about some general knowledge questions. But in my scenario, it was more kind of personality based, and in the whole process, I would say you should go once. It's a lovely experience. Without mobile phones, without social media, you get to live there, and you make good friends. And in the dormitory, I would say it's a hostel experience. So you should go. And I will also, in my video, I will show you a photograph which I got clicked on in that process about my SSB experience. So that was it. I guess this video might be helpful, and to all the defense aspirants who who like to who would have any questions, you are free to ask in the comment section. So thank you for watching the video, and I wish you all the best for your future endeavors.